Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast where we just yap about the stuff we watch, we like, we talk, whatever bothers us. Today, as usual, I am joined with my girlfriend, and today we're gonna talk about a Netflix show that we watched, and it was amazing. We really liked it. There was a lot of parts that I found intriguing, interesting, and I could relate to, and I guess we'll see it from the Meg's perspective as well today. How does she feel about it? What she has to share. So, let's start with a small introduction. How are you today?
Yes, I'm good. And adolescence was really interesting series.
Okay, so if we start with the general impressions, like initial impressions about it, what drew you in? Why did you like it? And how was the general show as a whole?
So in the first episode, I feel like it is mystery show or something because like he really looked like he didn't do it. Oh, as a disclaimer, it contains a spoiler of the content of the series, by the way. So people who haven't watched it and don't want to hear spoiler, please go watch Netflix show first and then come back if you want. So yeah, in the first episode, like my protection instinct, oh my god, what a pity boy, I want to protect him, like work. So I thought he really didn't do it, and then like a show goes, oh, like yeah, you know what happened. Then in the general opinion of me is like I feel like I take a glance of unknown world because it didn't really feel like a realistic, but at the same time maybe this type of can happen in somewhere, I don't know, like both realistic and unrealistic at the same time. What about you, Ken-san?
Well, for me, to be honest, initially I heard about it before you suggest to watch it, right? I heard about people talking it. I even watched a YouTube video about it.
Oh.
There was one of the channels that I usually watch did a video about it. He's the person in the channel. He's also parent, so he really discussed the parental perspective, why he liked it from parental perspective. Well, to be honest, I'm not a parent, so I can discuss it from the male perspective. So, and you will be representing the female perspective. So, with that, this way we can give maybe two views of the same show. But as I mentioned in the earlier, I was quite dreading starting it. I usually have this feeling whenever I start new series, I don't wanna watch it. I don't wanna start it. But once I'm in, I kinda, if it's good, I kinda get hooked and I wanna binge it. This was one of those cases. I think I finished it in the same day, right? In one day. I finished it in one day. There was a couple of things stood out to me as the parts that I really related and parts that I saw. What the parents was trying to do, especially the father.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, three things that stood out, if we narrow it down to three, would be generational trauma. I kind of sensed it. I was like, oh, okay, this looks familiar to me. Another was like from the teenage boy's perspective about like how insecurity at that age can affect you. And another one was about validation, like where and how you look for validation, and if you don't know how to accept it and manage it healthily, what it can lead to. This was more my perspective. So what about you? What's the top 2 to 3 things that stood out to you as a big one?
Like the thing is that, to be honest, I think it's because I'm in Generation Z and because I more belong to Asian culture, I would say. I didn't know about this type of like new emoji and what type of how can I say, like how young generation is using Instagram and stuff like that. It's difficult to like conclude in the 3, but I feel like I'm still processing what I have watched. And the largest part is I couldn't relate to the boy at all. And for me, it looks like the biased opinion plus his anger management problem issue exploded. But still, like, I couldn't understand why he ended up to, like, kill her as a normal little boy. Then, yeah, so I feel like I'm still confused.
Okay, so let's take it parts so that it will be easy, because there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things to talk, and I guess we need some kind of a line to follow. So let's start with the first thing. Let's start with the how in the beginning of the show we saw the innocence. The kid acted very innocently, right? Parents couldn't believe what's happening, and as soon as we enter the show, we see that. We feel like there has to be some misunderstanding, right? Because they set the stage so well that we are like, oh, there has to be something misunderstanding going on, because the family looks very normal, right, on the surface. The kid looks very normal on the surface, and as the show progresses, we start to see little hints of that. Oh, maybe it's actually it looks normal only from outside. But if we dig deeper, there's something that is not normal, and it's been like covered with a normality or normalization. But in reality, it's not like that. There's something grim going in the background, and we see this from parents' perspective as well. Towards the end, in the last episode, last episode, I feel like was the most touching one to my belief, because in last episode they literally open up about everything, like how it came to this. Like they don't directly say how it happened, but we see it from.
Yeah, I would say it was also like generational trauma. I also like sense it, but I would say it's not in a crazy level. It was. This type of thing happened. Like some people have it. I would say it was no normal level. I don't think it was a level that can trigger murder.
I think no. I think I can kind of relate when it came to the parent ignoring something obvious in their children. Like you can obviously tell, okay, this is problematic. There's a problem, but since maybe with a parental instinct to protection, or since it's something that grows in front of you, you tend to normalize their behaviors, thinking that they're kids, maybe they're gonna be better in the future. Because there was a point where family actually realized and tells to each other that he had this violent outburst, he had a problem with anger management, we should have took it seriously, we should have really took him to the therapy.
I think
in the episode 4.
In the episode 4, like when wife and husband like talking about what we should have done.
Stuff, right? They were.
I feel like they were normal parents. They have like
mother was
problems,
really talking about it.
What? So like.
Yeah, mother was talking about, and also when in the episode 3 when the kid was having conversation with the psychiatrist.
That one, right? Like
he talked about his father. Right, he talked about his father, how his father never touched.
But I would say it's still
never
like
touched her or her mother.
Normal level, like it's not something which can like trigger something. I don't know. I wanted to like make the creator wanted to focus on the influence of internet more than like how like growing environment.
I don't think so. I think definitely there was some triggers from the peer pressure or from social media, but I don't think social media is the sole reason why it happened. I think this is
really. I thought it was like 95% was because of like media, and the only 5% like it's kind of because of environment, like growing environment.
Not necessarily. From how I saw it, I was like, okay, this kid had problems, and social media amplified it. Peer pressure amplified it. And he didn't have, an environment where he could healthily explore these options. So he is he hid it from his parents, and his friends were into the same ideology as he did. So he created echo chamber where this kid really brainwashed himself with the help of social media and with the bullshit people on the social media who really pushes the bullshit ideas and lead to this. But I don't think it's just social media. I think there was a fundamental problem in there that social media really triggered. So there was something. So this was, I guess, a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, but without like social media, or if social media didn't have like extreme biases opinion, like he couldn't end up like that, is how I felt.
Yeah, so that's why I said it's like a 50-50. So 50% I believe is that he could have had this outburst, but he, through healthy friendships and good people in his life, he could have explored that way. Having anger management is important. I shouldn't rely on other people's opinions, which I think we will talk about next. We can talk about it, about like this validation and insecurity. But generally, I think this was a something dormant, because when we look at their father and the grandfather, when they talk about it, like especially in the episode 4, when the father talks about like how violent his father was, so kid's grandfather was, and how he promised himself that I will never be like this, I will never torture my kids, I will never hit my kids.
He kind of
So
managed to do it.
Yeah, but I think what happened is that he broke the cycle of abuse, but because it's genetic, he couldn't break the cycle of mental health behind it. There's a mental health in this, I think, picture, because I think they generational have a very unhealthy way of expressing anger.
Yeah,
like father, yes, he literally managed to. So I think father is a good example of if social media was not involved, because he still had anger problems, but he never directed to the people, because he managed to direct it to items like, he went to the gym, he went to if he gets very angry, he started to destroy the shed in the backyard, but it never directed to people. But towards the end, we see that at one point he loses that control.
Yeah, but he didn't like hurt people. Like, he threatened, but I understand because it was really, how can I say,
stressful,
extreme. But like, even in that, like, he didn't like lose his control in the point of like murdering or like hurt someone badly or something. So I feel like saying like violent trait as something DNA generational thing is a little bit dangerous, because his father like didn't do it. And I feel like maybe I feel like because like back in like even our generation, violence was much more I shouldn't normalize it, but compared to now, like it was more common, I would say. So I feel like it more like I feel like it's dangerous to say, because his father was violent, like this grandson is also violent and he killed person. It can expand stereotypes.
Because how I see it, I see that there's definite mental health issue in the problem. Right?
Yeah,
there's
but is it because
problems,
of like DNA?
Is
it something inherited?
Yes, it is. It is inheritable, and it's about nature and nurture process. Like, so we see that grandfather nurture didn't work, so he became violent person. He wasn't murderer, but he was abusive, right? So his nurture couldn't really, suppress the nature. When it comes to father, I think father, because I don't know how scientific what this is, but I know that there's a general tendency that you try to become opposite of your parents. If your parents are alcoholic, you tend to stay away from alcohol. There's two cases. Either you yourself become alcoholic, or you extremely stay away from alcohol. Same with the substance and with the abuse.
I feel like
so in I think father's case,
talk about it. It's gonna be like huge dangerous stereotypes. Like maybe there was like he has more tendency than other people, then because I feel like media plays like larger role in this. More than
that where we talk about nurture.
Yeah.
Media is a part of the environment where this kid is being nurtured.
Yeah.
Because this is why I say this is 50-50% case, because in father's case we saw that he is and his environment and where he grew up, or maybe because of the mother, because of the friends, or because of the mentors, or because of the general environment that he was in, he learned to not to direct his emotions to people. So he grew up to be a very decent person. He grew up to be a person. He
problem is
still with the anger
parents
issues.
were okay, unlike his father's anger management was kind of successful, because the son, the main character, I forgot his name, but he only saw once his father got angry and broke something, furniture or something inside the house.
But towards the end, we will actually see that how the mother, the husband's wife, actually helps him to manage this anger. Because we see in the conversation, they say that the mother, we see the psychiatrist and the kid having a conversation, we see that mother usually validates the father, right? She calms him down, she helps him with his anger management. So he never turned into a violent person, right? Because the environment was good. So the people he came across, people he met,
I feel like we need to
life,
focus
were
on
good
more
people.
environment more than how your ancestor was, how your grandpa had. So it should be considered some
Yeah, but
seeds
we
or a
cannot
little
talk-
bit more tendency. We should focus on media influences.
Yeah, but we cannot talk about this type of thing without touching the nature aspect of it. Because in psychology, you first look at the genetics, then you look at the environment.
Yeah, but
because
you cannot
environment can be amplifier.
Yeah, but it is true. But there are so many people who didn't end up in murder. So you need to think about seeds or tendency or something. You shouldn't conclude because his father was violent, so he was also violent. This is really rough.
No. What I say, I'm not saying that his violence is purely because of genetic. I say that there's a genetic plays role on it. So
yeah, but how you say
it was a suppressed tendency that was amplified.
Misleading. Because his sister, she doesn't have any trait of violence.
Yeah, because if it's a female, it takes from the mother side.
It's
if it's
not
a male,
always,
it takes
and you're
from the
not
father's
professional, so you shouldn't say, well, this is 100. You shouldn't declare like that.
Well, I have enough knowledge. I have enough university degree I have a degree in consulting to the degree, so I know how psychology and personality disorders functions.
I feel it's better for you to say there is a tendency and stuff like that, because you can 100% conclude.
I am saying that we see two examples of how genetics and nature combination played out. In father's case, environment influences, external influences were good, so father ended up becoming a so-called normal. He had he had anger outbursts, but it wasn't extreme levels, so he managed to still keep that anger under control. When it comes to the kid, he inherited that anger issue from the father and from the grandfather, but the problem with the kid was that although the family was good, and I think to the degree father ignored most of the anger issues, because he promised himself that I will not be as violent as my father was. So the way of father, when father realized that there's the anger issues, he took kid to the sport, he took kid him to the boxing and stuff like that. In episode 4 he says that I wished I took it more seriously.
You're fine, but this type of nurture nature thing we never know. So can we talk about media influences?
Yeah, so that's where I'm bringing it. So I'm bringing it to insecurity. So the kid, I think, people get angry, but very few people get angry enough to kill somebody, right?
Yeah,
or lose
that's
control
what we
to kill somebody.
need to talk. It's not about nurture thing. You're gonna explain because your grandpa was violent. You cannot conclude it.
No. Like I'm not saying I'm not saying that genetic is the whole reason why how he ended up, but I'm saying that most of psychological problems which he is having are genetic. There's actual physical impairment in your body, in your brain. It's either hormonal or it's physical impairment in the brain that causes these abnormalities. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you will end up like that if you grow up in a good environment where you go to psychiatrist or go to consultation early on, learn how to deal with it.
That's why it was problematic. It wasn't
so
really obvious.
This is I think why we don't Okay, so this is where I think we don't agree. So you thought, in your opinion, the family was good, right? So you think the mother and father did their best and everything was normal?
Because there was, in the world, there are more toxic parents, there are more can be worse. But they were relatively normal, I would say, and considering there is no perfect people in the world, I will say it was no normal level, and he grew up with love. I saw the topic theme of this series is though he was relatively grew up in normal with a problem, but why he ended up to commit a crime. I thought it was the main topic of it.
Okay, so we have two different perspectives on that, because when I watched the series, I saw this is actual making of a murderer to me, because I see that we explored the brain of a murderer or sociopath, because when it started, I thought the kid may be innocent and it's misunderstanding, or the kid's friends did it and pushed it on the kid. But as the show progressed, and especially in the psychiatrist episode 3, right, I came to conclusion that this kid is sociopath.
No, I thought
no
it was
empathy.
more problematic because he looks normal, his environment's normal. Yeah, there was small problem in the family, but he was raised up in a relatively normal environment. Then why it happened to him was I saw the same. It's really easy.
Okay.
Well, it was exceptional. It was crazy. Well, it's easy to say, but I saw theme is he was normal. He was ordinary one boy, and why this happened? It is because of school environment.
Okay.
I felt it was more they wanted to focus on environmental thing, because it was easy if his father was really really violent from the first of all, he didn't get any love and he was abused in the family, then we could see more relation between nurture. I feel we shouldn't expand nurture thing, because it's dangerous if we conclude everything into DNA, because what should
but yeah, we are
kids
not.
of parents
we are not doing
who
that.
was criminal. No, what I was saying, you sounded like that. That's why I say it sounded dangerous. I feel it's better to clarify that it's not 100%. Plus I feel if they wanted to focus on nurture thing, I feel they made it more clear connection between them, and it will be more easier, but they didn't.
Okay. So when you watch the series, you saw that he and his family dynamics were normal, and he relatively grew up quite in good environment.
Yeah.
But when I watched it, I didn't see that. I saw that there's this is going to lead to that, or that is going to lead to that. But I think also that social media really, really amplified him. Because I feel why social media was so effective on him is because he didn't get the fundamental validation from the father. Because
that type of thing, it's not that rare to be honest. I think we both experienced, but we didn't go to extreme.
But this is where I think I relate to anger issue things, because I myself dealt with anger issues as well. And what I realized is that if I were in a bad environment, or if I didn't realize that I have this problem and I need to take it seriously, I might have ended up as a violent person as well. But
Yeah,
for me,
but-
because of my education and because the lifestyle that I chose, I managed to identify it very early on.
Yeah, but do you think you committed crime
maybe to
even
the
in that
degree.
case? But then the problem, it's not normal that in the
That's
bad
the thing.
environment can go the bad way. Yeah, it's not normal, but in this case, like, yeah, relatively, like, there was some issue, but then, yeah, and I would also say school environment was not really good. I feel like most of the kids were really brainwashed with social media, or media had too much strong power over kids. But then, like,
So,
can
okay,
you end
so
it like
then we need to
not
talk.
small crime like thief or fighting, but he ended up in a killing.
So how I saw it, I think he committed a crime in the moment of hysteria. So he was completely not in control of his emotions. So he literally, to me, how I understand that perspective from his dad. When I have anger episodes, I really understand that you lose control, and if you let the control out of your hands, regaining it becomes harder and harder, because this anger thing is like a snowball. It starts small, but as you push it, it becomes bigger, and it becomes harder to stop. And what usually you do in this case is you really try to bring yourself back to reality, to understand your presence. But I think since he was kid and didn't have a understanding of what he's going through, like he didn't know that he's going through an anger episode, right? He did it on an impulse. So I don't think he actually made a decision to kill. He, I think, acted on impulse. So he was unaware what he did, and I feel like throughout the series till the end, he was denying what he did.
Yeah,
like,
that's
not
what
actual
I
conscious
couldn't
level,
really
but as subconsciously
relate.
as well.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you couldn't, but I could relate, because as someone who had anger issues, and from time to time that it surfaces out when I'm really, really stressed, or when the environment is too unpredictable, or in a situation where I cannot really control it or take a distance from the process that makes me angry, I understand how fast you lose that control, because it's very overwhelming feeling. Like you, at one point, you could kind of like black out into darkness.
Yeah, but I feel like if
I mean,
creator
you're
wanted
still
to
seeing what's happening. You're
focus on
still
like anger issue, I feel like they made the content a little bit different. I still think, yeah, it was
I
like
think-
part of factor element, but I don't think it was a main thing. It's how I felt. I thought creator wanted
to me, because I saw it like this.
focus on media influence and how it affects the kids.
To me, how I saw is that there's this generational monster that grandfather, father, and kid has.
Yeah, but it wasn't that obvious.
Yeah, in the beginning, no. Like, I mean, we are doing retro perspective. Like, we finished watching it, so now we know the whole story. So it's easier to imagine it.
It's still
But
like
as we-
not
as-
the obvious level.
because until I finished the series, to be honest, I didn't have anything. Like, I didn't have any opinion about it. But after the episode finished, and I sat down, I was like analyzing and thinking about what I missed as I watched it. Then I, by habit, realized that, okay, wait, this is a classic case of how environment. But this is so. I don't. So this is where I don't agree with you. I don't agree in a sense that environment cannot make you violent if you are not a violent person by nature. So I don't think environment is determining factor in here that caused him to become like that. What I think is that environment is a very big influence. I think environment plays maybe 50, maybe 40% who you will become, but based on my studies of psychology and my education on the psychology, environment is not sole determinant of who you will become. It's genetic, mostly genetic. Environment can either amplify the bad parts of your genetic, or it can amplify good parts of your genetic.
Yeah, I understand, but I don't know about the research, but I want to believe environment can play a role around 80% to 90%, because then how, if you say your character, your violence is determined by like more than 50% genetic, like how we can have hope if your parents committed crime.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I don't like this idea and tendency that we as a individual have very much control of our decisions or our characters, because I don't believe in that.
Do you want to say
I study anatomy.
He committed crime because of his DNA?
True.
Isn't it dangerous to conclude?
No, here's the thing. No. I'm not saying that he committed a crime because of his DNA.
Yeah, but you sound like
what
that.
I'm saying is this. There was a monster, and environment either fed that monster or environment can
I understand,
that
but you
monster.
shouldn't say it's around already 50% from the first hand, because his father didn't commit a crime. He didn't murder.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. It's not what I say. This is not my statistic. This is a statistics well known in psychology. This is well known in philosophy as well. Like there's a lot of philosophers like Kierkegaard also talking about like a self-actualization,
No, it's
that
fine.
inner
Like,
fighting
there's
of
no right
human.
or correct.
So
like, we are just saying opinion. It's fine. So I
Yeah,
feel
so
like it
how
was
I
more
saw-
environmental problem, and you thought it was more nurture problem.
okay, so can you? No, not necessarily. But okay, so I talked a lot, so I want to see your perspective. So can you tell me the movie from your perspective?
Yeah, so I
Because we don't align in somewhere.
Yeah, because I didn't feel it was a nurture problem. Yeah, there was like problems too, but I thought like it was normal level. As I said, like even in my parents' generation, it was normal that you would punch or kick from their teachers. I hear this often from my parents, so I understand like in anyone's mind like there is some monster. Yeah, it can because of like DNA and stuff like that, but what I felt was like more than that. Like school kids, the environment was more problematic because he was bullied. And his friends, they didn't look like that trustworthy, to be honest. And everyone was like caring about like, I will say not really sincere rule. Like I got surprised that they started talk like 80-20 rules and stuff like that. I thought the environment was much more problematic. So how I felt like how I felt was like normal boy with a little bit problematic element in him can be amplified this much from the toxic environment, and more than adults thought. Like current kids environment is polluted by social media is a message that I got, but I still couldn't relate his anger management issue. Like it's not normal that you are biased, but you get biased opinion from social media. In certain extent it's normal, and if it is kids it's more likely to happen. But what I couldn't understand about it was it's until certain thing it's normal, but isn't it different thing to like how can I say getting influenced by biased opinion and killing someone was two different things, I thought. And I felt a bit I couldn't relate with his anger management because he can be misogynistic, but it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't really connect it to killing someone. So that's the point I couldn't relate. Like, can you kill someone by...
So why do you think... Can I ask you, why do you think environment played bigger role in his action? Because maybe from your ethnicity, we know that you are Japanese already, we talked about it, right? And there's a stereotype that Japan is very tidy, very strict when it comes to rules. We know that Japanese schools are extremely militaristically ruled. Like there's
I
no
don't disagree.
talking back to your students. Yeah, there's no such a things like running around. We know from of course, some pop media like anime and stuff like that. I'm seeing many people are already aware or somewhat familiar with the Japanese high school image that we know that it's very tidy, it's very strict, it's almost like a military. There's quite an hierarchy, and students, teachers, everybody obey that hierarchy, and nobody outsteps their position. Yes, and we also know that there's a lot of bullying happening in these schools, right? So there's a lot of people kill themselves, there's a lot of suicide happening in these environments as well. But we also know that the schools are extremely civilized compared to Western schools, I would say. I remember we talked about the school environment. You said that you couldn't relate, and I was like, it's such a true school environment. I extremely related to it. The chaos happening, how teachers fail to manage that chaos. Well, because to me, it's very normal. If you put a bunch of teenagers with a full of hormones and you expect them to obey the rules, is not happening. But surprisingly, some Asian countries, they manage to somehow keep these teenagers in line. But I think that main differentiating factor in that is like how the approach to that, right? Because I found that school is extremely related, like how kids were running away from the school,
do you think it was
how
normal?
teacher left
the
class.
Average school
Yes.
is like that?
Yeah, I think yes. And I can vouch for other countries as well, as an international student in a foreign country. When I had a conversation with my friends, the school is usually like that.
I don't know. I also
like
asked
they
my
run
friend
away
because
from the
you
classes.
say like that. So I asked my friend, and but by the way, he and she they're from the Arab countries, and they say since they went to private school, it didn't happen, but they expect the same thing happen because they went to
school.
Public school. But the thing is that I went to public school in Japan when I was in the early stage of elementary school. I don't know, maybe because of region stuff like that, but it wasn't like that. So to be honest, I don't know which is true. For me, I also agree that it's more tough to current like young generation because of like Instagram, TikTok, and there's many social media stuff like that, and it's influences to their mental health especially when it comes to lookism and stuff like that. But I couldn't agree to the chaos happening. Yeah, bullying exists in Japan as well. I think some school, like of course, like kids doesn't listen to their teachers, but I don't know. I feel like it was really extreme from my experience and my assumption.
Really? Yeah, that was quite the interesting thing, because to me it was like a very normal school environment. In a matter of fact, for a second, I thought they actually went to actual school and let kids be kids in there.
Yeah. I thought
because I didn't think that it was acting.
Yeah, like I think I
being
read some
kids.
article about it because I found it interesting, and I don't know whether it's true or not because I just read it from a Japanese article. But they say like they really use like normal school, and they're actual like kids.
Yeah, because
school.
it had.
Yeah.
I also like the factor that the management took the process extremely serious, but none of the kids really bothered with it. Like I like how when police come in and they were like, incident happened, but every kid in that school already knew what happened. Right? I like the dynamic between police and his son who studies in the same school. Like how the kid was like, you are oblivious to the realities of like
to be honest,
how this
I couldn't
dynamics
believe
functioning
like
here.
you know, like one guy student like make fun of like police son or police himself. Like I think it never happened in Japan as long as I think, like because we usually respect the person in authority, person in power, and usually you get punished if you're against, and I don't know, because I was relatively good student from back in time, or I was fortunate was an environment. Maybe some Japanese people disagree with my opinion, but for me, like, can you make fun of police is what I thought.
Yeah, to me it was very, very real.
Really?
To me it was very natural, in a matter of fact.
Can you make fun of police?
Yeah. Well, I think this is the point, right? You saw adults in the movie, all adults in the movie were very serious. They understood the consequences, they understood the hierarchy, they understood the dynamics, especially how teachers were very reserved when the police was arrived. They were very trying to helpful because they were worried about the reputational damage. They also know about the law consequences. But I think the kids, if the kids were acting like a serious, I would thought that it's not going to have the same effect because they're kids. I think any of them realizes the consequences of their actions or severity of their actions, or they really understand what's going on. So, because I feel like at that age, I was mostly like that too. I didn't really care about the consequences of any action.
Really? No, like at that age, like we
I
already
used to
knew,
run
like
away
what
from
does
school.
it mean for like of killing someone. Like you are over 10 and you cannot be like, oh, I kill someone. Well, it's fine. It's unrealistic.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like I understand. Like no, the concept is like yes, I can say that everybody knows that what it means to kill somebody, but there's a difference between having it as an information and then there's a difference between acknowledging it as a fact, right?
Yeah,
I
but
think
you
these kids
take it
have
seriously.
that fact as an information. You do. Like, but I also saw people doing extremely reckless things, despite not having that information. Like in my high school, there was a gang fights, like a mass people in masses attacking each other, and they were using all type of stuff. Like they used to hit each other with the bats. They used to stab each other. Like police almost arrived to our school once or twice every 6 months. I saw a lot of kids get arrested for stabbing other kids. So I think that's really the environment and influence, because those who were fighting, they thought that they were doing something important. They thought they are, I don't know, protecting. Okay, so this is a bit different in cultures, but where I'm from in Azerbaijan, there's a very strong sense of culture or prejudice that kids experience. They think that they need to protect community, although they're not protecting the community. But they acted in a way that as if they are doing, or as if they are very righteous men, they are true men. So this is why I wanted to talk about like in the validation part, because other kids who to participate in type of stupid behaviors, they were seeking validation, and when they were part of it, they got validated. Because outside of that, they didn't get very much validation.
I don't know, I shouldn't generalize myself as a representative of like Japan or something, but at least what I experienced was like, I think I didn't met any violence in my life.
Yeah, but I also know that Japan in early 90s were well known for its school mafia, like a school gangs.
But it's back in my father and mother generation. Like it's already gone. Yeah. For us, when I was in junior high, I was also in private school, and bullying was, happened. But mainly among guys. But like, if I say, I don't know, it wasn't as strong as much as hierarchy, but it was like physical strength never important. We were more competing in the how smart, how great, how much great you can get, to be honest. So it never turned into physical fights. And I feel like bullying happened because their parents are really, really too much enthusiastic in education, and some kids who couldn't stand in the stress of educational abusing did some bullying. What's happened? but it didn't like done in that openly, or it didn't end up killing or not calling to the police. So it was kind of small incidents.
Yeah, so I guess that's the difference in cultures, I guess, you know.
Yeah,
Can be
culture, personal,
the society, how society formulated.
differences. I don't know, but still, like bullying.
Yeah.
If when bullying is extreme, it ended up in a suicide or killing. But I feel like these type of things is different from what we saw in adolescence.
Yeah, I think in adolescence, the school environment to me was very normal. It was your average school, like that's what you expect from
when
school,
you were a kid,
as much as I
like
can tell.
you guys were never that affected by media, right?
Yeah, this is where I want to talk about the insecurity part. When I was teenager, I was very insecure because I was fat. I was very insecure about it, and you really do get affected by other people's opinion at that age. Like you really, I mean, some people still, regardless of their age, get affected by other people's opinions. But then again, this is about you to become a decent person. To become a decent person, you need to really work on yourself, right? But not a lot of people do that. So I don't expect kids to not do that at that age either. Like I don't think 13-year-old kid would have any understanding of what me or identity means, how should I live my life, how can I make decisions for myself, because he's 13 years old. All he cares about how his friends see him, how his girlfriend sees him, or the person he has a crush on sees him. It can be the same for girls as well. So, and they go through changes in their body, and I think this is where the nurture comes in, like environment comes in. Like if he was in a good environment where people didn't really care about the appearance, everybody's parent really educated their kids that look, you guys are just kids, you don't need to have sex at this age. Like not being a virgin at the age of 13 is extremely normal.
From biased internet opinion, and that played a big role.
No, it's not biased internet. To be honest, when I was at that age,
seriously.
When I was at that age, internet was not that popular to begin with, but this virginity thing existed. Like for some reason, everybody at the age of 13, 14 was talking about banging chicks.
What?
I don't know where they did it. There's the banging chicks, like they're having sex. Like I heard a lot of stories about a guy talking about a girl in another class and how he had sex, or how they did dirty stuff in somewhere in the basement. 13, 14. And I don't think this is a surprise. I think everybody would agree with me that it was a thing. Like it's not necessarily a media thing. I think it's just general teenage hormone thing. Like that's
media thing. I
think it existed way before media.
I don't know. I don't think, at least in a junior high age, around 15, I don't think having sex was that normal. It suddenly started to appear in a high school from 16 to 18. Then when I become university student after 20, after 18, like around 20, it became normal to me.
Oh, do you remember in the episode 3, when the psychiatrist asked him about his preference in women and what he likes, he lies. He says that I touched the boobs of the girl.
Yeah, the one I didn't understand why he needed to. So he was it his pride?
And then
I have experience type of thing.
Yeah, he was pretending. And then he breaks down very fast, saying that I lied, I didn't do it. But I was like very real, because you go ask any 13-year-old, they would say the same thing.
13? I understand if because it was like 18, but 13?
Yeah. At least
I
that
wonder
was how
whether
in
they
my
know
age.
about
But I
sex
think
or
today
not.
it's even more. They know. Like in America, I have students at that age, and they know more than we know. I'm 100% sure. Because it's unavoidable. Because when I was 13, I managed to find those things. I'm sure with today's technology, considering how social media really puts it into your face these days, they of course know about it.
Yeah, so
I find it
I
quite.
thought it was really because of, I didn't know the word, but manosphere, misogynistic, or like wrong way for being manly. So you say it existed before the internet, so it's not because of the media thing. It just
what I'm
became
saying.
large.
What I'm saying is that whatever we see today in media is nothing new. Like this type of misogynistic people existed. What is new is that before, this type of people used to be called losers, and they used to be ostracized from the society. But what happens in the new age is that these people can make money and influence more people with the use of
so it became worse,
because
right?
Because here's the thing, back in that time, if you saw a misogynist, if you saw somebody from manosphere, like talking their opinions that openly, that person would get beaten up and very fast ostracized from the society, and they would couldn't be this popular or this.
Yes, I would say like kids were more affected by that directory. Maybe with the media, like some people can have that kind of opinion, but it does not get majority. And I feel like for the kids in the school, like they thought as like default. I feel like everyone thinking that way, like losers, like you need to be very, very attractive in the age of 13, and blah blah blah, too many biases and lookism. The thing is that I saw lookism, I feel like the type of lookism different from Eastern Asia. So I saw more Western countries, people do not really care about like fashion and appearance. What's my stereotype back in time? But like he kept saying like I'm ugly, I am ugly, so it's not really the case.
Yeah. I understand him, because when I was in that age as well, there was this insecurities were pushed onto you by everybody else around you, right? And sometimes it's done in a way that is unintentional. But I think this type of insecurity exists as long as media existed, right? I don't think it's new, and I don't think this generation, the first generation, really experiences it. But
isn't it
I think this generation just experiences it in amplification.
Criticize about others' appearance, especially in
that's the
Western
thing,
world.
Right?
That's what I thought back in time.
That's the narrative they want to push.
Because in Japan it's more common to criticize about others with some like bad intention. I think it's still going on, like it's not slowly changing. But I understand about the looks and how it's affected. I can understand the feeling that I'm not that cute, I need to do something, blah blah blah. But it didn't connect it to I hate man or like motivation to harm someone.
So manosphere, this stupid toxic masculinity, at least when I was in that age, was not this big. It wasn't this amplified. It wasn't never this extreme. It was more about like so maybe not in Asia, maybe not in the Western countries, but where I'm from, East, it's considered as East, the beauty standards or masculinity standards for man was that you need to be big, you need to be strong, you need to have a hair, like the facial hair was a big thing. If you had a colorful eyes, even better, because we got influenced by Western media as well.
Eyes, like blue or green?
Up. Blue or gray. If you had this type of eyes, you would be more more cool. But considering that it's East, there's no people with the blue eyes in the country. How you can have a blue eyes, right? But we got influenced by Russian media, we got influenced by Turkish media, we got influenced by Western media, and these geographies tend to have a colorful people with the colorful eyes, hair colors, right? So when I was a teenage, the beauty standards was about looking strong, fit, masculine, like masculine in a way that like a fit, like a muscle-related masculinity.
Wait. Then let's talk about this in another episode about lookism. because I feel like we have quite different standard in your country and in my country.
Yeah.
So now we
So to
talk
sum
too
it
much.
up,
So
basically, the
so yeah, but so we find out that the message or the context that we got from the series was quite different. I thought like media was this evil world, though it like his environment, at least his family, was relatively good, and Ken-san is more thought nurture could play role in that series, and media was just amplification. Am I correct?
So yeah, okay. To sum it up, my opinion when I looked at this TV series is that this kid had sociopathic tendencies, but these sociopathic tendencies amplified because of the environment. If he were to be in better environment, I think it doesn't change the fact that he's sociopath, but he would have been more controlled sociopath. So maybe he would have not killed a person, but maybe he actually managed to go to therapy and managed to deal with his demons. But how I see is that this kid had demons in him, inherited that demons from the generation, from the grandfather, from the father. But at the same time, I think that father was a good example of how environment helped him manage his demons, and the kid was a good example of how environment actually amplified that demons.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and
Yeah, so I guess we wrap it up. Part 1, we talk about adolescence.
I wanna talk.
I think we can make another part.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is there was a lot of things going on in this show. So let's do our summary and wrap it up. Generally, I really liked it. There was a lot of things going on. It showed a lot of perspectives on a lot of things, like how we normalize stuff, how parents ignore certain signals that right in front of them, and we also see how if you end up in an echo chamber, it can really damage you.
Then
What are your opinions?
my opinions, as I said, there was many points that I couldn't
to wrap it
understand. Media is bad.
Media is bad. Yeah. So that's it for today.
Yeah.
We will come back with the part 2 because there's a lot of things that we want to talk about it, and this goes into a very big topic. So
Since
see you guys next time.
I couldn't relate most of the part, I feel like I want more question to you.
Yeah, so see you guys next time. It was fun, and see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.